You ever notice how some TV reboots act like they're doing us a favor, only to steamroll our nostalgia and leave us begging for reruns? That's right, Hollywood has a habit of digging up classic 1970s shows, only to slap on CGI, botched casting, and storylines nobody asked for. But why do so many remakes end up trashing everything we loved? Grab your remote because what you're about to see might ruin your classic TV comfort food forever. The Bionic Woman 2007. Picture this. It's the late 70s and the Bionic Woman is everywhere. Lindsay Wagner's Jaime Summers is the superpowered secret agent with a soul. She's part sci-fi action star, part everyday hero, and totally unforgettable. The show didn't just break ground for female action leads. It did it with heart, humor, and those glorious slow-motion sound effects that became TV legend. So, what could possibly go wrong with a remake? Let's ask NBC circa 2007. The answer, literally everything. First, they took the heart and humanity out, swapped in relentless darkness, and hired a British lead, Michelle Ryan, to mumble her way through an American icon. Every color was drained from the screen. Every ounce of fun was replaced by a grim, gritty vibe that screamed, "We're edgy now." And if the original secret sauce was the dynamic between Jaime and her mysterious handlers, the reboot tossed that out for endless exposition and side plots nobody cared about. The big bad was Katie Sackhoff, who, to her credit, brought some fire, but even she couldn't elevate scripts that felt like leftovers from every other forgettable 2000s sci-fi show. Jaime's cyborg upgrades, all the high-tech jargon in the world couldn't hide the fact that these bionics had zero wow factor. The new Bionic Woman even tried to shoehorn in a kid sister and family drama, as if what fans missed most was parental angst. Episodes lurched from one joyless fight scene to another, all drenched in that blue-gray, serious television filter. The final insult, the writer's strike hit just as the show started, so plotlines wandered aimlessly, and the series was axed after only 8 episodes. NBC thought they were updating a legend. Instead, they performed a nostalgia lobotomy and left fans longing for Lindsay Wagner's warmth and those corny sound effects. Sometimes being cutting edge just means cutting the cord. Kojak 2005. Sometimes a reboot goes so far off the rails, you wonder if anyone in charge ever actually watched the original. Kojak was pure 70s TV cool, Telly Savalas, bald and beaming, wisecracking his way through gritty New York City with a lollipop in hand. He was tough, clever, and totally in command. The streets of Manhattan looked rough, but with Kojak on the case, justice came with attitude and a killer catchphrase, "Who loves ya, baby?" Now fast forward to 2005. USA Network dusts off Kojak, hands the role to Ving Rhames, and immediately starts sucking the flavor out of everything. The new Kojak is technically slick, yes, modern suits, new cityscapes, and enough lens flare to blind a SWAT team, but it's got the personality of a soggy cardboard box. Rhames is a powerhouse actor, but here he's shackled by scripts that mistake monotone gruffness for gravitas. What happened to the wry humor? The streetwise wisdom? In the original, Savalas could cut you down with a glance and heal the wound with a grin. In the remake, the only thing getting healed is your insomnia. Every episode feels like it's been dipped in a vat of TV's blandest gray paint, with plots recycled from police procedurals past, and dialogue so flat you'd think it was drafted by a fax machine. Worst of all, the lollipop is back, but it's just a prop, not a personality. This Kojak doesn't wink, he glowers, and the heart and soul of New York, nowhere to be found. The city is reduced to a generic backdrop. The supporting cast is all business, no charm, and by episode 2, you're already missing the retro swagger of the original. Critics panned the reboot, viewers ignored it, and after just 9 episodes, Kojak was quietly retired. It turns out, you can't clone charisma, and you definitely can't fake Telly Savalas. Sometimes, a show needs more than a title. It needs a soul. This remake proved you can have the badge, but you still might not have the magic. Ironside 2013. The original Ironside was something nobody had seen before. A tough-as-nails detective in a wheelchair, played by Raymond Burr, rolling through San Francisco and outsmarting the city's worst. It was revolutionary for its time, not just for featuring a disabled lead, but for the depth Burr brought to Robert Ironside. Wise, stubborn, empathetic, and always a step ahead, the show blended classic whodunit plotting with a sense of human dignity and defiance. Fast forward to 2013, when NBC decided it was time time for a gritty reboot. They cast the charismatic Blair Underwood as Ironside. On paper, inspired, in execution, a catastrophic collision of bad ideas. For starters, this Ironside is all anger and aggression. Gone is Burr's quiet intelligence. In its place, you get a rage-fueled, hyper-masculine loner who spends more time punching walls than solving cases. Even worse, the reboot erased one of the most meaningful parts of the original, casting a non-disabled actor in a disabled role, then making Ironside's paralysis just another TV plot device. Critics called it out. So did disability advocates. NBC's attempt at edgy realism fell flat. Ironside's disability wasn't explored with nuance or depth. It was just set dressing for yet another tortured hero routine. The tone, grim, joyless, and generic. Instead of San Francisco's color and character, viewers got endless shots of anonymous, shadowy city streets. The supporting cast tried hard, but their storylines went nowhere fast. Plot twists felt borrowed from every other cop drama. Corrupt cops, dark secrets, family trauma, without a hint of the originality that made the original special. The final result? Universal panning from critics, backlash from viewers, and an early cancellation after just 3 episodes aired. 9 were made, but most never even saw the light of day. NBC tried to justify the experiment, but all they proved was that some stories deserve better than a reboot by numbers. The 2013 Ironside didn't just miss the mark, it ran over it and left fans longing for the days when Raymond Burr rolled circles around the competition. Chip's 2017 movie? If there's one thing the 70s got right, it's that TV could be cool, sun-drenched, and a little bit goofy, sometimes all at once. Chips was the ultimate West Coast ride-along, breezy, high-speed motorcycle chases, a SoCal bromance for the ages, and toothy grins for days. Eric Estrada and Larry Wilcox weren't just TV cops, they were pop culture icons, their easy chemistry turning every traffic stop into must-see TV. So what happens when Hollywood gets the urge to update this for a new generation? You get the 2017 Chips movie, a so-called reboot that missed the point so hard it might as well have been texting while driving. Instead of cheeky camaraderie and clean-cut adventure, this movie dove headfirst into crude, R-rated slapstick and mean-spirited gags. The only thing familiar was the uniform, and even that looked like it belonged at a Halloween party. Dax Shepard, also the director, cast himself as John Baker, while Michael Pena played Punch. The script tries to wring laughs from every possible source except genuine character work, drug jokes, bathroom humor, and more forced male nudity than anyone asked for or wanted. Gone is the innocent fun. In its place, we get midlife crises, cartoon violence, and scenes so tone-deaf they might as well have been written in another language. The original Chips wasn't Shakespeare, but it understood what made viewers come back. Heart, sun, and a sense of brotherhood. This movie, it's more like an SNL parody that never found the punchline. Even Eric Estrada himself publicly disowned the film, calling it dumb and disrespectful. When the OG Punch walks away, you know you've missed the off-ramp. Critics demolished Chips 2017, audiences ignored it, and the movie vanished from pop culture with all the dignity of a traffic ticket. Lesson learned, if you're going to revive a classic, maybe leave the cheap shots on the cutting room floor and keep your hands off the legacy. Because not every update deserves a siren. Wonder Woman 2011 pilot. You'd think Wonder Woman would be the one 70s legend Hollywood couldn't mess up. Linda Carter's Diana Prince wasn't just an icon, she was a movement. The original series radiated earnestness, a sly sense of humor, and a magical optimism that turned every spin and costume change into appointment viewing. You didn't just watch Wonder Woman save the day, you believed the world could be better, even if only for an hour a week. So, what did NBC do with their 2011 reboot pilot? They tried to turn Diana into a modern-day CEO with anger issues, stuck in a joyless tangle of corporate boardrooms, legal intrigue, and poorly choreographed violence. Adrienne Palicki did her best with what she had, but it was as if the writers had never even seen the original. The classic Wonder Woman warmth was replaced by moody brooding, and the signature lasso was now a tool for intimidation and forced confessions, not truth or compassion. Even the costume was wrong. Out went the iconic star-spangled shorts and boots. In came shiny blue pants that looked like leftovers from a mid-range Halloween store. The supporting cast was lifeless, the villain generic, and the love interest forgettable. Instead of celebrating Diana's roots or updating her ideals for a new era, the pilot played like an awkward office drama with occasional superhero interruptions. Network executives were quick to pull the plug, shelving the pilot before it even aired. Leaked footage confirmed what fans feared. Not a single moment felt right. The entire production seemed allergic to fun, afraid of camp, and desperately self-serious. For a hero who once stopped bullets with bracelets and taught a generation of girls to be fearless, this was an epic letdown. The takeaway? Not every property needs to be rebooted with a dark edge or an MBA. Sometimes, what worked in the 70s works because it had soul, and Wonder Woman 2011 proved that all the special effects in the world can't replace a heart that beats for justice, not quarterly reports. Fantasy Island 2021. Once upon a time, Fantasy Island was appointment television for anyone with a taste for the strange and the sentimental. Ricardo Montalban's Mr. Rourke, mysterious and impossibly smooth, welcomed new guests to an island where dreams came true and lessons were learned. Every week, a mix of lighthearted fun, soap opera drama, and just a dash of the supernatural kept viewers guessing. Deplane wasn't just a catchphrase, it was a ticket to escapism. But in 2021, Fox decided what the world really needed was a reboot, one that traded mystery for therapy and swapped out camp for clinical dialogue. Instead of the enigmatic Rourke, we got Rosalind Sanchez as his descendant, Elena Rourke. She's competent, sure, but where's the twinkle, the danger, the sly humor? The island now functions less as a playground of possibility and more as a glorified wellness retreat. Gone are the larger-than-life characters and surreal plot twists that kept the original humming. In their place, bland, sanitized wish-fulfillment stories, each neatly resolved with a hug and a life lesson. The magical realism of the 70s was replaced by life coaching and pop psychology, as if Fantasy Island had been merged with a daytime talk show. There's nothing wrong with growth or therapy, but where's the spectacle? Where's the jaw-dropping surprise? Every fantasy on this island comes with a legal waiver and a plot twist you can see coming from a mile away. Critics shrugged, fans sighed, and the reboot quickly drifted off the schedule, lost in a sea of TV that forgot why the original mattered. In trying to update the formula for modern sensibilities, the 2021 Fantasy Island forgot its own DNA. The result? A show that promises magic, but delivers little more than a tepid vacation brochure. Lesson learned. If you're going to offer fantasies, at least let the audience dream. Charlie's Angels 2011. Let's start with a reboot so infamous, it made even die-hard fans wish the original tapes were locked in a vault. Charlie's Angels 2011. Now, in the 70s, the original Angels were the definition of cool. Farrah Fawcett's hair deserved its own Emmy. You had wit, charm, and crime fighting in bell-bottoms. There was a sly wink behind every car chase, and the Jiggle TV label, yeah, it was a thing, but the show was smarter and funnier than critics ever gave it credit for. So, what did ABC decide to do with all that cultural gold? Strip out every ounce of charm, double down on girl power with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, and cast 3 leads who, let's be honest, could have been swapping lines and you wouldn't notice. Annie Islandzay, Minka Kelly, and Rachel Taylor tried, but the script left them as cardboard cutouts in miniskirts, mouthing exposition while dodging generic explosions. Forget snappy banter or sisterly chemistry. This time, it was all about slow-motion strutting and clunky melodrama. The iconic Charlie, barely a presence. Bosley, suddenly a young, hot hacker guy. Because that's what fans were begging for, right? They even tried to give every angel a tragic backstory, as if an overdose of trauma would somehow make us care. The result? Critics torched it, fans rolled their eyes, and the network yanked the show after just 4 episodes. That's not a stumble, it's a full-on faceplant into the Hollywood pavement. The lesson here, you can't reboot chemistry with a spray tan and call it empowerment. The 70s Angels made crime fighting look fun. The 2011 version made nostalgia look like a crime scene. So, to the folks who greenlit this remake, thanks for proving once and for all, some halos should just be left untarnished. Hawaii 5-0 2010. Picture it, Hawaii Five-0 in the 1970s. Jack Lord's Steve McGarrett, granite-jawed and never less than perfectly coiffed, commanded his elite task force against crime in paradise. The waves crashed, the villains were larger than life, and every episode closed with McGarrett's iconic "Book 'em Dano." It was the kind of show that oozed cool without trying, blending old-school cop drama with the laid-back groove of island life. The theme song alone is enough to spark a nostalgia rush. Enter the 2010 remake. At first glance, it seemed promising. Big budget, exotic scenery, a fresh cast, and nods to the original. But it didn't take long to realize this new 5-0 was less about crime and character and more about blowing stuff up. Alex O'Loughlin's McGarrett traded in Lord's steady gravitas for a scowl and a penchant for rule-breaking that would make Dirty Harry blush. Instead of slow-burn suspense, the reboot went full action movie of the week, with car chases, gunfights, and so many CGI explosions you'd think Hawaii was under constant siege. What got lost? Just about everything that made the original special. The procedural charm, the memorable villains, and the chemistry of a tight-knit squad, all sacrificed on the altar of adrenaline. The island itself, once a vibrant character, became a glossy postcard for tourism instead of a living, breathing backdrop. Even "Book 'em Dano" became a punchline, trotted out for fan service, but robbed of its original punch. Critics and old fans grumbled, but ratings kept it alive for a while. Yet, as the seasons dragged on, the plots got more absurd and the emotional core faded to black. Characters rotated in and out with little warning, and eventually the show felt like just another generic cop drama with palm trees. Sure, it lasted 10 seasons, but quantity doesn't equal quality. At its best, Hawaii Five-0 was comfort food with a kick. The remake tried to supercharge the recipe and ended up nuking the flavor. Sometimes less is more, and sometimes the best way to honor a classic is to leave it riding that perfect wave into TV history. Dallas 2012. Few shows defined late 70s primetime TV like Dallas. J.R. Ewing's devilish grin, family feuds that made the Hatfields and McCoys look like amateur hour, and the cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers, who shot J.R.? It was soapy, sensational, and self-aware. The original Dallas was more than just a series. It was an American obsession, blending Shakespearean backstabbing with Texas-sized glamour. So, when TNT revived Dallas in 2012, bringing back Larry Hagman, Patrick Duffy, and Linda Gray, expectations soared. For a moment, it almost worked. The old guard slipped into their roles like they'd never left South Fork. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. The newcomers, saddled with convoluted plot lines, felt like pale imitations of the originals, more focused on power lunching and boardroom drama than epic family warfare. Worse, the reboot tried to modernize with high-tech oil deals and cyber sabotage, but missed the juicy melodrama that kept the original pulsing. Even the much-hyped Death of J.R. episode couldn't spark long-term interest. The stakes felt smaller, the betrayals less shocking, and the dialogue, at times, downright wooden. Instead of campy excess and addictive twists, viewers got recycled tropes and flat energy. The original Dallas thrived on over-the-top showdowns and a wicked sense of humor. The reboot felt bogged down by its own seriousness, unable or unwilling to embrace its roots. When Larry Hagman passed away during filming, the show lost its heartbeat and no amount of legacy casting could save it. After 3 seasons, Dallas was canceled again. The lesson? Lightning rarely strikes twice, especially when you trade Texas thunder for boardroom drizzle. You can bring back the ranch, the hats, and even JR's boots, but if you forget the audacity, you end up with a soap opera running on empty. The Prisoner 2009 miniseries. Ask any 70s TV aficionado and they'll tell you, the original The Prisoner was unlike anything else on the air. Even though it's technically a late 60s show, American reruns through the 70s gave it cult status. Patrick McGoohan's Number 6 wakes up in a surreal seaside village, surrounded by mind games, shifting allegiances, and a giant, inexplicable white ball named Rover. It was weird, trippy, and absolutely unforgettable. Enter the 2009 AMC miniseries, a reimagining so aggressively muddled it made viewers wonder if they'd wandered into a philosophy lecture instead of a TV thriller. Jim Caviezel took over as number 6, with Sir Ian McKellen as the enigmatic number 2. The casting was impressive, but the story? A labyrinthine slog through abstract symbolism, existential angst, and narrative dead ends. Gone was the original's balance of paranoia and wit. In its place, a joyless, colorless desert town and a series of plot twists that felt more like homework than entertainment. The problem? The reboot was too afraid of its own shadow. Instead of embracing the cheeky, oddball spirit that made The Prisoner a cult classic, it opted for self-serious, brooding mystery. Every moment felt loaded with ponderous dialogue and forced ambiguity. The show's surrealism became an excuse for incoherence, and fans of the original were left longing for the playful, subversive energy of McGoohan's masterpiece. Critical reception was icy, and casual viewers checked out by episode 2. Instead of updating a classic, AMC proved you can lose an audience faster than number 6 can say, "I am not a number." Some boxes are best left locked. The Odd Couple 2015. If sitcom history teaches us anything, it's that magic can't be recast. The original Odd Couple, 1970-75, turned the simplest premise, a neat freak and a slob share an apartment, into pure comedy gold. Jack Klugman and Tony Randall weren't just actors. They were Oscar and Felix, their push-pull banter as sharp as any late-night stand-up. But 2015's reboot wanted to prove that lightning could strike twice, or, at the very least, ride Matthew Perry's post-Friends fame for a few seasons. Instead, what viewers got was a show that felt like it was assembled by an AI that had read the Wikipedia summary and nothing more. Perry's Oscar was cranky, but never lovable, and Thomas Lennon's Felix turned up the neurotic energy but missed the vulnerability that made the original so endearing. Instead of organic, character-driven comedy, the reboot leaned hard on forced gags and awkward, formulaic scenarios. The apartment itself looked more like a sitcom set than a lived-in space. The laugh track, cranked up to maximum volume, seemed to be begging viewers to react to punchlines that often fizzled. Where the 70s show trusted its audience, this reboot spoon-fed jokes and still missed the mark. Even with a 3-season run, The Odd Couple 2015 became background noise, neither reviled nor beloved, just there. Critics shrugged, viewers moved on, and the chemistry that made Oscar and Felix a TV institution was nowhere to be found. The lesson here: odd pairs can't be manufactured, and you can't slap a classic title on a lukewarm remake and expect the old magic to come rushing back. When it was canceled, barely anyone noticed, and that might be the saddest punchline of all. Battlestar Galactica 1990. When you talk about classic sci-fi TV, the original Battlestar Galactica 1978-79 is a cult cornerstone. Ragtag space survivors, swashbuckling dogfights, and enough melodrama to make space opera cool again. It was fresh, flashy, and weirdly charming. A cosmic mix of biblical references, laser battles, and Saturday night escapism that left fans wanting more. And then, in 1980, ABC said, "Let's bring it back," but with a catch. Battlestar Galactica 1980 wasn't a true remake, but a continuation that decided to toss out most of what fans loved and replace it with Saturday morning cheese. Gone were the big budgets, the original stars, and the pulse-pounding action. In their place, recycled effects, new leads, and a bizarre Galactica lands on Earth plot that made even die-hard fans cringe. The show fast-forwards 30 years, with the fleet finally finding Earth. Only this Earth isn't ready for alien spaceships and Cylons. It's ready for time travel, biker gangs, and one episode with superpowered children. The two main leads, Barry Van Dyke as Dylan and Kent McCord as Troy, were the TV equivalent of Diet Cola. Technically fine, but lacking any fizz. Most of the original cast, including the beloved Commander Adama, Lorne Greene, was relegated to background roles, their scenes mostly filled with heavy-handed lectures and stock footage. The scripts? Clunky doesn't begin to cover it. Social commentary was swapped for Saturday morning shenanigans, and the trademark action became rare and awkwardly staged. Even the iconic Viper fighters rarely took flight. Fans tuning in for high-stakes drama were instead given Galactica Kids Go to School episodes and a general sense that everyone involved just wanted to go home. Critics panned Galactica 1980, fans abandoned ship, and the series limped through just 10 episodes before being quietly jettisoned into deep space. If the original was a cult phenomenon, the follow-up was a cautionary tale. Never remake, reboot, or revive without a plan, and never send your starship to Earth if you can't bring the magic along for the ride. All in the Family 2019 Live. Back in the 1970s, All in the Family didn't just push the envelope, it burned the whole mailroom down. Carol O'Connor's Archie Bunker, a working-class bigot with a hidden soft spot, sparred with his family in a Queens Row house. Norman Lear's creation tackled racism, politics, and generational clashes with wit and bravery that turned uncomfortable truths into ratings gold. It was raw, honest, and wildly funny, a show that shaped television itself. Fast forward to 2019, when ABC thought it could bottle that lightning again with a star-studded Live in Front of a Studio Audience special. Woody Harrelson stepped into Archie's chair, Marissa Tomei donned Edith's apron, and the sets were lovingly recreated, down to the last shag carpet. For a moment, nostalgia was in the air. But here's the thing. Recreating an iconic show, word for word, on live TV is a tightrope act, and this one wobbled hard. The cast tried their best, but instead of channeling the characters, they often felt like they were doing impressions, sometimes inspired, sometimes just flat. Archie's biting edge was blunted, Edith's warble sounded more like a Saturday Night Live sketch, and the rhythm that made the original episodes crackle with tension was replaced by careful, respectful mimicry. And there's the rub. All in the Family was great because it wasn't safe. It dared to offend, to make you laugh and squirm in the same breath. The live remake, by contrast, was a museum piece, polished, reverent, and a little bit hollow. The audience applauded every callback, but the shock and raw humor of the 70s version just didn't land the same way in a world allergic to risk. Critics were divided. Some loved the effort, others questioned the point. At best, it was an affectionate tribute. At worst, it was TV karaoke. When the curtain fell, viewers remembered why some classics are best left untampered, their rough edges and bold choices preserved, not polished by time. Roots 2016. When Roots aired in 1977, it was an earthquake. Based on Alex Haley's epic novel, the miniseries told the story of Kunta Kinte and his descendants, forcing America to confront the horrors and humanity of slavery, with stunning performances, uncompromising storytelling, and a cultural impact that still echoes today. The original Roots was more than TV, it was a national event. In 2016, the History Channel gambled big with a high-budget Roots remake, hoping to introduce the story to a new generation. Visually, it was a stunner, sweeping cinematography, intense performances. Malachi Kirby's Kunta Kinte stood tall, and a modern script that didn't flinch from brutality. But as ambitious as it was, the remake couldn't quite escape the shadow of its predecessor. Every scene felt like a meticulous homage, well-crafted, yes, but sometimes overproduced and a little too eager to impress. While the original gripped viewers with urgency and a sense of history in the making, the 2016 version sometimes fell into the trap of prestige TV. Glossy, careful, and emotionally distanced. Despite strong reviews and solid ratings, audiences were divided. Older viewers compared it unfavorably to the gut punch of the original. Younger viewers often saw it as required viewing instead of must-see TV. The show's message, however, remained as necessary as ever. The problem? It's hard to make lightning strike twice when your source material has already changed the landscape. The new Roots brought clarity and technical prowess, but struggled to capture the raw, immediate shock of 1977. It was history remade, but the emotional voltage had dimmed. The verdict? Sometimes a classic is best left standing as a monument. You can honor it, update it, even expand on it, but you'll never recapture the feeling of watching it shake the world for the very first time. Starsky and Hutch 2004 movie. Let's wrap with a show that was pure 70s TV dynamite, Starsky and Hutch. The original? Two mismatched cops, fast cars, tight t-shirts, and that big red Gran Torino sliding sideways through every episode. Paul Michael Glazer and David Soul had a chemistry that could make even the goofiest stakeout sing, and the show balanced tough guy action with easygoing buddy cop comedy before it became a formula. Then came the 2004 Starsky and Hutch movie starring Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. Was it a loving homage or a funeral in disguise? That's up for debate. The film flipped the original on its head, turning every trope into a punchline. Stiller played Starsky as a neurotic try-hard. Wilson's Hutch was a slacker cool mess, and Snoop Dogg as Huggy Bear seemed to be in his own movie altogether. Fans of the show were left scratching their heads. Was this a parody, a spoof, or just a missed opportunity? Sure, there were Easter eggs for diehards. The real Glazer and Soul showed up for a cameo, but the story was boilerplate buddy cop fare dressed up in vintage drag. Instead of celebrating the heart and style that made the original a hit, the movie reduced everything to aren't the 70s wacky, sight gags, and cheap laughs. Critics were split. Some enjoyed the irreverence, others saw it as the end of the buddy cop genre's innocence. The box office was decent, but the film quickly faded from memory. For a show that once set the standard, the reboot movie made a strong case that nostalgia is best enjoyed straight, not shaken into satire. Sometimes, the line between homage and send-up is just too thin. In the case of Starsky and Hutch, the movie proved you can't always drive a classic into the future. You might just spin it out instead. So, there you have it. 15 times Hollywood tried to polish our memories and instead turned classic 1970s TV gold into high-gloss disappointment. Which remake trampled on your nostalgia the most? Did we miss a disaster that still haunts your streaming queue? Drop your gripes, hot takes, or guilty pleasures in the comments below. And if you love a good TV train wreck, hit like and subscribe, because with reboots, you never know what classic might get wrecked next. Drive a classic into the future. You might just spin it out instead. So, there you have it. 15 times Hollywood tried to polish our memories and instead turned classic 1970s TV gold into high-gloss disappointment. Which remake trampled on your nostalgia the most? Did we miss a disaster that still haunts your streaming queue? Drop your gripes, hot takes, or guilty pleasures in the comments below. And if you love a good TV train wreck, hit like and subscribe, because with reboots, you never know what classic might get wrecked next.